Good evening. It is Monday, February 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the Susan Tully Lively Boardroom of the 1887 building. And we're going to start the evening by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Tadlock, would you take roll call?
Mr. Andre.
Here.
Mr. Gayheart.
Here.
Eric Gordon.
Here.
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Here.
Mrs. Costock.
Here.
Mrs. Reckles.
Here.
Mr. Scarrow.
Here.
Ms. Corpus.
Here.
Mr. Jaime Saravia.
Here.
Okay, we're gonna start out with community participation. I did receive one card for speaking. I'll read a brief sentence and then you can come on up and speak. The community participation period is an important time for the Board of Education to hear concerns, gratitude, etc. of its constituents. That said, prior to making a statement, please be aware that each speaker bears the personal risk if anything they say during community participation of the school board meeting is defamatory, slanderous, or otherwise harmful to another individual. So, Mr. Devin Gatton, if you would come on up and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. First of all, I just want to say thank you guys for being here tonight. Appreciate it. I come here often to sometimes complain to you guys. So I think it's just equally as right for me to come and give kudos where it's necessary. I know you guys don't get that enough, and so that's why I'm here tonight for. There's a lot of contention with the referendum on some people wanted it, some people didn't. I clearly very definitely didn't. Not that I didn't want it to pass, but simply just didn't want it to happen right now. I thought that there was time that could have been done to convince the community to be able to pass it later on in the future. But I just want to give props to Adam Andre. He's been working his butt off out there in the community, out there with people that disagree with him, to be able to try to go through and sit down and have meetings every Saturday. And Julia's been there and Kathy's been there as well. And trying to convince people even on a one-to-one basis and speaking to people individually. And yeah, it's time consuming and unfortunately, because of his commitment, he's missed time with his family and doing other things as work. But he's just done a fantastic job articulating his position and making sure that he is, whether I agree with everything that's going on or not, he's done everything that you could ask out of a board member to be able to try to help out, support the referendum that he is helping pass or helped vote for. So that's really all I wanted to say. Just thank you, Adam. Thank you for everything that you do, and keep doing it, man. Don't be afraid whether or not somebody else online, who's anonymous is gonna say or do something. Ignore the stupid people. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. And now I bring my family to board meetings, by the way.
All right, thank you. We're going to start out the evening with the Tibbetts Elementary student presentation.
Good evening, I'm Brian Frost. I am principal out at Tibbetts Elementary. I brought some friends of mine here, Mr. Sam Fox, he's our student council advisor, as well as Bennett and Henry Lauderdale. Bennett's in 4th grade, Henry's in 5th, and Ellie and Emmy Kleist. Ellie's in 4th grade, Emmy's in 2nd. They are all members of our student council, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. So things I'd like to share with you, or we'd like to share with you, is who's on our student council, what do we do, some of the fun activities that we've put together for our students, some of the community service items that our student council members participate in, and then just what little bit of mentoring and leadership that comes along with being on student council.
Student council members can participate in.
I did not practice. She certainly wants to be part of the presentation today. Who's on our council? What do we do? The first, the next slide, Mr. Tadlock, is there's a large group picture, Mr. Fox. Is that everybody pretty close?
Yep, pretty close. There might be a few missing.
Yeah, our council is made up of 2 members from each homeroom, so that's grades 1 through 5. So this year, I think that'd be 16 homerooms, so about 32 students. Each homeroom gets to decide how the members are selected. Sometimes there's a couple of volunteers. Sometimes they, indicate that they're interested and they have a class vote. Sometimes as they get older, they might have to prepare a speech. And that's how they decide who ends up being on that student council each year. So things that we look for our student council to do, they have a monthly meeting, probably much like the school board. You guys have your 2, but then there are sometimes where we need more meetings kind of on the fly based on what's happening within the school and the activities that they're planning. And really what they try to do is provide some fun throughout the school year for our staff and our students. In order to do this, they do a little bit of fundraising. They also look for ways that they can give back, both to our school community and our local community, and really working together as a mixed age group of students and kind of learning from each other on what it looks like to become leaders. Some of the opportunities that they've brought to our school, some of the simple ones, they do something called picture trivia. The first example was flowers. Now it's usually 10 if I remember right. Sometimes there's a bonus question that they throw in there, and the homerooms kind of pull that up on their screen and see if they can answer what kind of flowers, or the second one was, famous people as Legos. So picture trivia, and again, it's just fun. They also have done coloring contests in the past. The 2 pictures, top left, bottom right are winners from the last coloring contest. You can see our kids, they were judging the contest at the time. And then a little bit bigger, they bring some assemblies or programs. Each fall, we have a pumpkin patch out at Tibbetts, and that started during COVID. It's one of our kindergarten team's favorite field trips that we weren't allowed to do. So our PTA worked together with the student council to bring the pumpkin patch to the school. You can kind of see the hay wagon and the ride that is involved. And then the student council's portion of that is they provide the pumpkin, 1 pumpkin for each student in the school. So, we've had some really cool school assemblies that they've been able to pick out and bring to the building. The first one was a magician that we had last year. In the fall, we had the UW-Whitewater wheelchair basketball team come and share what it's like to be a student with disabilities and for us to learn from them. Kids got to play, staff got to play, and can I give away the May?
Yeah.
They have a really cool activity. You're all welcome to come in May. They're gonna have a laser show at the school, music and lasers and yeah, so that's up and coming. Probably have forgotten some, but Mr. Fox, maybe we could share some of those. So in order to provide, the funds to do that, there's a couple ways that they raise funds. One fun way is through the school store, little, fidgets or slime or Smensels. That's a pencil that smells. And they have a traveling store that goes around to different homerooms. And kids buy, that's one way they raise funds, and then they have a big chocolate sale each year. In fact, I think you guys are either still selling chocolate or just finished selling chocolate.
I hope you brought some for us.
Or the chocolate.
World's finest, I mean, they've been selling world's finest chocolate for years.
$1 forever.
I can't say the chocolate bar is quite the size that they were when I sold. Yeah, but that's the fundraising part of being on student council. Some of those community service opportunities that I mentioned within the school, the first 2 pictures, our student council they're the ones that welcome the veterans for our Veterans Day program. They also serve breakfast out at Tibbetts each year. They welcome and provide programs for our families when they come to our holiday program. Over on the right, each year we have a large food drive, and then we donate to the Elkhorn Food Pantry as well, so. Mentorship, I just mentioned that, you know, within an elementary school day, it's become more jam-packed with curriculum and what we need to get done. And the opportunities for kids to work in a mixed age group has become less and less. Really, it's probably bus, lunch, and recess. And the things that we learn there aren't really the things that we want passed on as much as here at Student Council, first graders through fifth graders are really working together to come up with ideas to make the school better and, you know, provide opportunities like we mentioned previously. So that was my portion. These guys wanted to tell you what they like best about being on student council, including Mr. Fox, the advisor. Emmy, you want to start? Share what you like best about being on student council.
My name is Emmy Price. I'm the second. In student council, we get to help decide the picture trivia topics. I like that we get to vote for different things activities.
Ellie?
Hi, my name is Ellie Price. In student council, we get to help sell things at school store. I like getting to share the information from the meetings with my classmates.
Henry?
My name is Henry Lauderdale, and my favorite thing about being on student council is voting on picture trivia and all the different activities and everything that we do at school.
Bennett?
Hi, I'm Ben Laudo. I'm a fourth grader at Tibbetson, and I am in student council this year. I like being on student council because I like voting on things and helping to make decisions. It makes me feel like I'm helping people.
I'm Mr. Fox, and I think the thing I like about it is working with these guys. I get to work with people outside my class, which I really like, some older and some younger. So like Ellie was a student of mine, now she's on student council, so I get to see her. That's one of the cool things. It's usually a really nice group of kids, and they're really excited to help out around the school and do things also in the community. And I think that's really neat to see. You get to see the best of the kids at Tibbetts, so that's what I like.
I will say this, Sam, I think you started the same year I did, so he's been working for Elkhorn School District for 25 years. You said 16 years as student council advisor?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
And when I go and watch their meetings, the ideas are all kid ideas.
Yeah.
You know, and Sam's got lots of ideas, and he certainly helps guide, you know, the council, but ultimately, like the kid said, it comes down to the votes, which is real life. You know, and so he helps them with those ideas, but it's kid driven, and that's always neat to see. So. All right, that was our presentation on the student council. Do we have any questions for the adults or the kids that were here?
Well, we have two members of our our high school student council here with us. Maybe they would have some questions that they would want to ask. Or maybe just share how you see similarities or differences in how you guys do student council versus what they're doing.
Well, one similarity that I noticed is, you guys said that you like participate in the assemblies and help with, like creating them and things like that. And I thought that was cool because recently we just made a holiday assembly, and so that was like a cool addition to our high school and different like assemblies that we kind of make and are in charge of.
Great.
I'm sorry, I put you guys totally on the spot.
Well, like, we also do like the voting stuff when we're choosing themes for like homecoming and snowball and stuff, so that's pretty cool to see the kids doing that too.
Yeah.
You know?
So good, you feel like good preparation
Yeah,
for
that's
what's to come
that'll
if they
prepare
want.
them for the high school.
Yeah.
student council.
Well, they get to see that if this is something that they like, it's
Right.
something they can continue all the way
Yeah.
through school while they're here.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
Do any of you guys have the pencils that smell?
What's your favorite flavor?
Smells, yeah, they're a
Like
hit.
strawberry or lemon or?
Yeah, what do they smell
They're
like?
probably going We didn't get any this year because they're
Oh.
harder to find, but
Oh,
in the
Cotton
past,
candy.
all different scents,
okay.
so.
And this is
Are
first
any-
grade it starts?
First grade through fifth grade, yep.
Are any of you officers? Like, are you?
Do we have
a
officers?
We
vice
don't really
president?
do officers.
Oh, you
it's
don't
just
do
a general
officers?
kind of
Okay.
group, Yep.
All right.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Well,
Well,
thank you very
much.
much
Thank you very
for
much.
coming.
You can recruit that kindergartner back there for first.
You learned all about it tonight. We like to give our kindergartners a chance to kind of get acclimated, but by first grade, if they're ready.
Let's go.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're gonna move on to approval of the school board minutes. The regular session board meeting from January 27th.
I don't.
Comments or corrections, none, then looking for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the January 27th, 2025 regular school session, school board meeting as presented.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the January 27th, 2025 regular session school board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
Yes, okay, sorry, I should have done a roll call on that.
That's all right, I got it.
All right, thank you. All right, general and other fund bills.
The general and other fund bills this evening covers checks number 154268 through 154271, 154278 through 154407, wire transfers 875 to 892, ACH 533 through 575, and the combined amount of $768,125.73. And then there's a memo providing some additional information on several of the bills in your board packet. And then at the end of the bill listing is a copy of the treasurer's report that I filed in December.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Tron? I forgot to open. I forgot to open the, yeah, but. I had a couple of questions on, just a couple of credit card charges. There was one for. Some materials that was called Speak Up, Speak Out materials. Do you know what those are?
That's the anonymous tip online, and then there's also a. So you have to go and purchase them from the Speak Up, Speak Out site, but there's also a grant, so they cover the cost for that, so. When I was at a wrestling tournament over in Oregon, I noticed that they had some of the signs up in their building.
Yeah.
So we have Safe Elks, but we also have the statewide Speak Up, Speak Out. So I had asked Mr. Anzalone to look into that, and so I'm sure he must have had to use the card to do the initial purchase, and then you get
Got it.
grant monies covered. Would be what I would.
Okay, I just
I
wasn't
guess, was it
familiar with
Mr.
that,
Anzalone's
so
card?
was just wondering.
Oh, that's a good question, yeah.
Yeah.
We weren't familiar with, I hadn't seen that come across either, but thought it would be good to get those up in the high school and.
Sure.
libraries,
Okay.
Especially.
And then there was also a bunch of appliances. What were we buying appliances?
Yeah,
for?
we're replacing, we do have like a washer and dryer at
Yeah.
the high school. Food services use it, our family and
Yeah, yeah.
consumer ed, custodial staff, athletics. And then we replaced 2 walk-in coolers with small refrigerators.
Okay.
Because what we found through the data wrangler system is they're costing us about $600 a month each
Oh.
to operate.
Oh my
And they're not
goodness.
being used for very much during most of the year, it's just
Yeah.
certain times of the year, so we decided, let's turn them off, we'll buy smaller refrigerators. And we'll
That are much
improve
more
savings.
efficient.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
well, that
that's,
makes sense.
that's why, but great question.
Yeah. Okay.
That's amazing that data wrangler was able to pinpoint what that was for, what the usage was. That's amazing.
We have other examples too, Kathy, and we're kind of tackling one by one, but that was an easy one to kind of make a change with.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then on the probable voucher question things, there was one for Prime Star. Maintenance services for the HVAC systems throughout the district. I did notice that part of that bill was one large chunk. Were we replacing an HVAC unit or? Cause it seemed like a pretty high amount. for
It's more of
maintenance.
our service contract, so it's
Oh.
for hours of service for
Okay.
all our HVAC equipment.
Okay.
So it's a block of hours we have for the
Okay.
second part of the year, so.
Okay, so you're just paying for a chunk of
Correct.
time, and then if we don't use all of that, do we get?
We can either get a credit back or we
Yeah.
can use it for equipment for
Okay,
HVAC, so we have that option. We built
Okay.
that into the contract.
got it.
There's also one there for a Becker boiler. You may have noticed that. That was for a high school boiler.
Yeah,
That was some initial assessment on one of the Kakana boilers at our high school. We're gonna end up having to do significant repairs on that boiler.
okay.
But fortunately, we have what we call boiler and machinery insurance.
Uh-huh.
And that'll cover a good portion of that bill. You'll probably see that come across in the next board meeting, but
Okay,
it wasn't a specific question that you asked. but
Right, right,
It kind of ties
related.
into HVAC stuff,
okay.
yeah.
Did anybody have any other questions? Okay, seeing none, then looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve the general and other fund bills of February 10th, 2025, check numbers 154,268 to 154,271. And 154,278 to 154,407. Wire numbers 875 to 892 and ACH numbers 533 to 575 in the combined amount of $768,125.73 as presented.
For a second,
I'll second it.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the general and other fund bills of February 10th, 2025, check numbers 154,268 to 154,271. And 154,278 to 154,407, wire numbers 875 to 892. ACH numbers 533 to 575 in the combined amount of $768,125.73. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Andre,
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart,
Yes.
Eric Gordon,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Costock,
Yes,
Mrs. Reckles,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Mrs. Corpus,
Yes.
and Mr. Jaime Stravia.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. And next is our student representative report.
Okay, last week was Skills USA week, and the big thing that they did was host a clothing drive. And all the students donated up to, like, it was 1,083 items that they're donating to the Clothing Outreach Center.
Wow.
And then Skills USA also has the regional competition this Friday. And then this week is FCCLA week. And some of the big things that we're doing is there's a meal for the homeless shelter that they're making after school on Thursday. And then tomorrow, Noon Whistle, it's like a podcast or like program that's gonna interview FCCLA members about their birthday bag project and just FCCLA week in general over at Elkhorn. And then they also had their regional competition last Friday, so there's a couple pictures of that. And then Shrek the Musical rehearsal started. And then in the third week of April will be the shows for that. And then student council decided on their dress up days for Snowball Week, which is next week. And so the overall theme is festivals. So Tuesday is Snooze Fest, Pajama Day. And then Wednesday is Country Thunder. That's also one of the class themes. So it's just like dress up like a cowboy. And then yeah, and there's a couple other ones like Color Fest, which is like class color day and things like that.
For the middle school, the Elkhorn Autism Support Team wants to thank all the staff and community that participated in this year's chili and soup cook-off fundraiser. In the middle, that's some 8th graders that are experiencing some fun at Trackside Center. I remember when I went, I can't do that. I just kept falling on my bug. And then in the bottom right, there's recipients of the Friends Awards as well as the option student artists who created the awards. These were designed to recognize individuals and businesses who have support students in Elkhorn Area School District.
I just want to give a shout out to the Elkhorn Autism Support Team, an incredible event, really well organized and run, and I might have been the best attended one that I've been to. It was
There were a lot of people.
pretty full, yeah.
The bottom left picture is students rewarded for doing their Jackson jobs. And on top of that, it's the first set of multiplication fact masters. There were more students because Elkhorn's so good at producing multiplication masters, but those are the only pictures I could find. In the middle, that was Miss Swig's first grade that engineered their very own animal ears, and they were inspired by animals that they've been learning about. On the right, that's one of the 5 Jackson artists that whose exceptional artwork was selected for the WAEA, Wisconsin Art Education Association Regional Art Show, and that was on display at UW Whitewater. On the bottom right, that's the wrap up to the BLTWB unit. 3rd grade students have the opportunity to hear from a beekeeper and his favorite hobby.
Oh, very cool.
Over at Tibbetts, the first 2 pictures are when the Walworth County Extension presenters taught some of the 3rd graders classes about owls. And then the picture on the top right is students, they were able to listen to the famous Pete Oswald read the book, The Big Cheese. And the students were able to draw the big cheese with the guidance of Pete, and he's like the illustrator of the book. And then the next family fun night for Tibbetts is gonna be over at Trackside. And then for Westside, their student council came up with a couple of dress up days for this week and for Valentine's Day. And also some pictures of this month's gotcha winners. And then some of the elementary school kids are learning about how living organisms can pass on traits to their offspring. And then those are also the anthology winners.
For options, 4th K enrollment is now open. The top right picture is 4th and 5th grade student academy students that started their novel studies. And then bottom right is Mrs. Kunitomo and Miss Raimi. They're working on an exciting surprise for options, where they took a special outing to Fox 6 News in Milwaukee. So it'll be interesting to see. For CCA, Elkhorn and Gateway, the team, they talked about the why behind the program's creation. And then Career and College Academy is going to have some admission events these coming days.
And then for Parent Connections, I have a couple pictures from their last Young Athlete Night, and there was a couple high school HOSA volunteers too. And there's just a picture from their last story time and also Miss Esther's February schedule.
All right. Thank you guys very much. All right, next is our director's report. Oh, no, we're not.
We're gonna table that one. Ms. Rick is under the weather and
Yeah.
she really wanted to make it tonight, but she was,
Yeah,
better to stay home and keep us up.
yes. But so we'll move on. So we'll table the director's report and then move on to the January enrollment report.
Turn it over to Mr. Sherwin to get an update on those.
Yeah, this is the second, I'll call it official report we do for the state. The first one's done in September. We call it a third Friday account, and then in January is our second Friday account. So you can kind of see the numbers and compare them. The purple is the numbers that represent our January count, both our resident and our open enrollment. Overall, we're up, I think, about 8 students in terms of overall head count. So that's good news in terms of comparisons. How these numbers affect us, that doesn't have any effect on like our revenue cap calculation because that's done in September. But it does affect our state aids because they average both those numbers together. So when that increases, that helps our state aid dollar amount for the following school year. So.
If it is an open enrollment move in, they do prorate the open enrollment based on when they enroll. So you do, if it's a move in, you don't get to increase your revenue limit. If it's a move out, you don't decrease it either. That affects the state aid, but open enrollment does
Okay.
do the per day or,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there a certain cutoff on that bill, or
I
is
think
it
it's
all
in-
through the entire
I
year?
think there is a cutoff in May because they have to calculate the final aid distribution, but. So we usually see an adjustment on a positive side with that too, when we get our final amount into June.
Middle school, high school, I mean, there was certainly increases in other areas, but middle school and high school seem to be off. Is that due to some transfers like high school to other high schools or?
Yeah, I mean, we're down some in the resident count from the middle school level, just looking at the open enrollment amount. Let's see, September resident was 538, so we were down about 3 and down about 5 on the non-resident for the middle school and the high school. I would have to go back and look exactly to see if it was move-ins or transfers. It could also be early graduation.
Oh, that's
At the
true.
high
I always
school
forget
level?
about that. Yeah,
It's not unusual to see the high school go down
Yeah,
in the January
because of early
count
graduation.
to a certain extent.
Got it.
And then, yeah, so those two were down. The others were pretty stable. The charters are the ones that,
Yeah,
and that's a pretty typical trend that they
yep,
grow throughout the year.
yeah,
So
we're
I think
at
when we look at-
17 in options and,
Yeah, 8, is that CCA? Yeah, or CCA and 10 at Sophos, which is under the CCA charter umbrella. And then the options virtual went from 348 to 357.
okay.
Any other questions on the enrollment?
Next is the referendum update.
All right, just an opportunity for us to discuss with the board any questions or updates that you want to have. I grabbed a couple documents here to share, and this is a listing of, see if I can. Get this to pull up how I want. There we go. Future community forums and coffee chats. And the dates, we have a mailer that I'll share with you as well, that's gonna be going out to the public, and we'll post this on the school district social media pages as well. I know Mr. Gatton had cited some of these conversations have taken place during the public comment, but again, these are, and if your name's not up on one of those, that's fine. Jody is posting the community forums. This was just a response we had from the initial board members, so all of you are welcome to attend. These will be posted as potential,
Yes, yes, please, someone please join me on the 22nd. I don't want to do this solo.
I'll be there. I don't know why I'm not on that one, but I'll be
Thanks,
there.
Adam, I appreciate it.
I'm not around.
Yeah, and I can update this. At any point there, so go ahead and look at those, and we can continue to update, either add or subtract from the document. As long as there's one, so Adam, right now, you're on that one there. If you can't make it, let us know, because we'll have to scratch it. But
That's also St. Patty's Day, so
yeah.
we'll see.
We could potentially make that one, it depends on where I'm at in my recovery, because I will be off work with my shoulder.
Okay.
What time is that? Do you know?
6:30 p.m. On Monday, March 17th.
Got it.
I've got a colonoscopy the next day. You do not want to be there.
I went through that. No, stay home, please.
Yeah, and if there's ever, I know, Bill and myself, we're more than happy to meet with anybody and attend any event as well. I think people have really appreciated and heard a lot of positive feedback in relation to visits from the board members. And I know some of you have been going to the different buildings as well to have conversations with the staff and get input there. And that's been very well received, so thank you for that. We'll go to the fact sheet. we'd send that out, got information, this is just. Factual information that we try to keep in a concise format that's on a one-page document, front and back. We really want to steer people to the website where they can get more information there. And if there's anybody in the community that's listening, if there's a question that you have, we're happy to add that to the facts and questions list and put that on the website as well. But this is the fact sheet document and that we will go ahead and get this printed out and shared. I think looking at that theme, we really want to address the primary areas of feedback that we had received, being that the prior referendum was too much money. In that year 4 and on, it was ultimately a $7 million recurring referendum. This one is a $4 million a year non-recurring. The prior one had a no end date. That was, significant feedback that we received that people wanted it to have an end date. So change from a recurring, which doesn't have an end date, to a 4-year non-recurring. Didn't communicate previous budget cuts well enough. We published on the website. We'll continue to work on that document to put it in a concise yet comprehensive manner. But you can go back to 2014-15. We've documented the different budgetary cuts and or saving strategies that we've used, and in addition, revenue generation. Didn't know what would be cut without the referendum. We had spoke about concepts and ideas related to what we'd have to get to, but feedback was that people want to know exactly, what specifically were you going to do. The board reviewed those proposals in December, leading up to this, and we've clearly spelled out this is what will happen in the strategies that will be used if it's not approved, and how we'll get to the balanced budget, with or without that referendum. So on your ballot, we always list the question there. I think I completely get it. It's the ballot questions. I don't like how you have to word them. I don't like the legalese. We've tried to push the envelope with Baird numerous times, but you have to go through bond counsel. There's very specific legal requirements on it, and they have to be worded. You don't have a lot of flexibility. So I understand when people look at it and it's like, well, why is it worded this way? It'd be better this way. There's very little creativity that you get to have within that on bond counsel. In particular, I think the prior, in our experience, because we've tried to do stepped in referendum questions to minimize the tax impact. And I think the feedback we've received when we tried to do that is that it confuses people rather than just having a flat dollar amount for the 4 years. It's that simplifies the language. The estimated tax impact, again, try to put a number of different scenarios on there. Again, that doesn't cover all the property values that exist out there, but hopefully, using a value like, 100,000, you can do multiples of 10, and most people could do that. In their head is the goal, and then breaking down to what is that annual impact, what is that monthly impact. And I know there's, some districts that they'll break it down and really focus on that monthly impact, and because, that makes it sound less. We felt it's important. Yep, we want you to know what it is monthly, but we want you to know, we want complete transparency in that costing. That's why we chose to put, both on there, the annual and the monthly.
Jason, I wonder if I could just,
Yes, go
on the
ahead.
question itself, I think the other piece that we brought up in multiple times is, could we word it such that it was up to a dollar amount in the question rather than by a dollar amount? And that's, bond counsel has not been allowed for that kind of language, unfortunately.
Can we put on there, I have a couple of comments, but on this section here, can we put on there on your ballot suggested by bond counsel? Because I've gotten several questions about why it's so confusing. I mean, more than that's probably in the top 5 of why do you, and then of course everybody thinks it's something nefarious. We're trying to be confusing. And then you have to explain to them,
Right.
this is done by bond counsel, we actually pay for a service to do this. Can we say it on your ballot as per suggested?
For required by bond counsel.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you think is that more of the issue from the past referendum rather than this one? Because this question doesn't have a stepped in.
So
Is this simpler and
this is simpler, but
you still have people that don't
what's
understand?
interesting about that is now it looks a little goofy because we're asking for 4 million reduced from 7, but people see it as, well, you're only asking for 1.7. Then you have to go through and explain that it was
So there was
tiered
1.7 plus
and then
1.7.
compounded.
Compounding.
So
1.8
Once you
plus
explain it 13 times, then it resonates. But this is also added to the confusion of the classroom. The wording stinks. There's no way around it. But if we can say, listen, it has to be.
Ultimately, this is significantly less.
Yeah.
Less.
Let me,
Right.
let me
The
check, I don't,
previous,
did
yeah.
Katie send this out?
And when you explain that to somebody, they get it.
Right.
But when you see
Not
it,
sure.
Okay,
even.
let
my wife
me-
was confused.
I'll make a note. I don't think we sent this to the press yet. And there is a little space under that. Perhaps we can put like a note that,
Yeah.
Per bond council.
yeah, for bond counseling, something, we can try to do that.
If it hasn't gone to press yet, one other question, I think I would pose it to the 7 of us. So one thing that I've learned, and this is gonna be a formatting question at the top. One thing that I've learned that just about everybody says, it's always. Schools want more money, the teachers want more money, Jason wants more money, it's the same comments, that's the start of every conversation. And I have reiterated a million times. The school board unanimously voted to go to referendum. That was the school board that did it, not the administration, not the
Right.
district, the school board did it.
Right.
So is there a way do we maybe want to look at, like where it says Elkhorn Area School District operational referendum? Can it say something along the lines of school board, like your elected officials, the school board, it's not the district, it's the school board that's doing this.
I know in the draft community connection, it does say that, at least on the very top, because I think it has the date as well.
Okay,
But it isn't
All right,
in the.
let me take that to Kay. I think that's a good suggestion. And that the lettering up there, it's probably, could be adjusted to put something in there along those lines if that's something the board wants, like operational referendum unanimously approved by the ESD school board, or
Did the mailer also go to print?
not yet.
Okay.
I know we were waiting to confirm.
The mailer
Okay.
did.
everything to it.
Because,
I think the mailer did.
I thought
Oh,
we were
really?
until tomorrow morning, but, okay.
okay, the reason I bring that up is because that is. It says that on the backside, the district heard your concerns. I would rather it say the board
I agree.
heard your concerns.
Okay,
Because I think you're right, Adam. That,
It's less combative too in a conversation, saying, listen, it's your school board.
yeah.
That immediately, it's almost like you're disarming
Mhm.
a combative situation when you say, listen, seven
Right.
elected people
Right,
unanimously voted to go to referendum. There's no arguing that
right.
it's not the district, it's us.
okay. This bottom section, if it fails, and we received good feedback from staff, they really wanted to emphasize, their biggest concern, aside from the elementary school of going to the center school model, but really at the heart of that is the class size impact. And that's what they wanted to make sure that that was a focus and emphasis, because as a teacher in that classroom, I know that from a strategy standpoint and a organizational standpoint, I had a community member ask, what's the data on center school model compared to a neighborhood model? Is there data that shows a negative impact? There is data that shows a negative impact, and particularly students from poverty. It's a minimal negative impact, but the more transitions you have
Right,
in a school, it has a negative impact. Oftentimes that data, it's hard to delineate how many times you move, but it does have a similar impact. Class size also has a impact. It's not the most cost effective student achievement initiative, meaning it's very expensive to lower class size. But my biggest concern is the number one factor in a student's success is the quality of teacher that's in the classroom.
Yeah.
And my concern is the district's ability to retain, attract, and keep high quality teachers, especially in an environment where we're not getting 300 elementary applicants for elementary positions anymore.
Right.
We're in the low 20s.
Yeah.
For those type positions. We're not getting, you know, if we have a German teacher opening, we're hoping we land a candidate or two
Right.
to choose from. So that's the class size and that stress load, that retention ability that puts on teachers is probably at the heart will ultimately have the greatest impact on student achievement. Because we can do other strategies and things to mitigate, you know, that class size impact, but the loss of teacher quality is probably the single biggest concern.
Well, and in addition to that, I think we've got just what the teachers themselves are going to have to do to completely change their teaching strategies, because now all of a sudden, especially at the middle school, they're not going to be just teaching 6th grade science. They're going to be teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
And so, and the other question that we've been getting is that, you know, is it gonna be implemented this coming fall, or is it gonna be a year from now? And I'm like, no, it's gonna be this fall. It will be right away. And I think the teachers themselves are very concerned about that they will even be ready and prepped to be able to do that. It's an enormous amount of change on the teachers' ends. And just a ton of work on their parts.
I think the other piece that came up and the concern as it relates to, and for families, usually at the top of the list is student safety and
Yeah.
well-being. And the fact of the matter is when you have more students to teacher ratio, more students to administrator ratio, to counselor ratio,
Right.
that's less supports that can be given, that's less. It'd be hard to make an argument that you can maintain the same level of student safety across the board, with having less attention, less, adult contact.
Can you go back up for 1 second?
Yeah.
So in the staff meetings, just sharing with the rest of the crew, I think they've gone really well. Teachers have had a lot of great comments. They thank the board for being present.
Comments and questions.
Comments and questions, and some people like to vent, some people like to talk, dialogue, but I think overall it's been fantastic. One of the comments that was made, and I see it on here, increased student fees by 100%.
Oh, yeah.
It was a really interesting comment. She called it referendum math. What are our student fees-ish? In
Just
September?
for registration,
Yeah,
just not
Yeah.
including all the other stuff, but
Yeah.
just for registration.
I know that parents probably get that information, but I have been looking all over our website and also on the handbook, and I cannot find a breakdown of
Is it
student fees.
$30? Is it $50?
The $30 is the registry, or we call it our consumable fee.
Sure,
So that's the standard fee that, and then
Yep.
if they want the insurance, there's an additional fee for the
Yeah.
Chromebook insurance. Athletics has an additional fee, and
Yeah.
then I know the high school has some, I'll call it some resale fees, like if you took a Woods class or a family consumer ed.
yeah,
But some of those fees would be for all students, which is the consumable fee.
right,
I can tell you that by the time you start adding those
Right.
fees and what it
yeah.
takes, right now, I would say it's probably roughly $100. Just thinking as a parent who's had, you know, the high school and the middle school, I usually figure it ends up being per kid about $100, and you know, that's not including if you get the yearbooks or not, which you get hit up on
Or
those at that
AP
time.
exams. AP exams get
Yeah.
expensive.
And then then you go out to get the school supplies, so that's
Right,
a separate piece. So I probably spend about $200 per kid on that lower end, and that's if I don't have to get the Texas Instrument calculator for the high level class.
Right.
Those are still around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the graphic
So-
calculator, yeah.
just on the student registration fees.
Right.
If we were to double them, which I'm not even talking about all the other fees that you're including. You know, you go from 30 to 60, and you say you have 3 kids in the district. Now that's another. You know, now you're at $180.
It's your cost of referendum.
And there's, you
It's your
know,
it's your tax impact rate.
When we calculated on our savings sheet, though, I believe we were calculating, I think, you know, what's the total we collect on all fees?
yeah,
And in doubling
Oh,
that.
okay.
So that would.
so
be-
the fees doubling would far exceed the cost of what the passing the referendum would cost them.
Oh, it all depends on how many kids they have. you know,
Right,
and
it
what
would
their
depend on the
profit
number,
is.
but on average, 3 kids, and probably it would happen for 2 kids.
Yeah, that was a really interesting, the way that she mapped that out was really interesting and
Yeah.
impactful. I mean, that resonate, you
Right,
know, your fees are gonna go up more than your taxes are.
right.
You know, I don't know if I don't know if I would even wanna highlight that on here. Or
No,
how you
granted.
say it,
But I
but
think when we go talking
conversation.
to groups, we need to be able to say. This is how much it will cost if the referendum fails and you have a child or children in the
Yeah.
district.
Feedback I heard from Burlington residents was what caught them off guard was the additional daycare because they shortened the
Right.
school year.
Yeah,
And that far exceeded,
yeah.
or will far exceed for those families that have to have daycare access.
Granted, it doesn't, those fees don't affect people who don't have kids in the
Right,
district,
right.
so that's not an argument you wanna use with those individuals, but.
You know, anything else on this portion before I go to the second, what would be page 2?
Do you guys have any comments on the referendum or? What are your thoughts from a student perspective?
Well, with the teachers, like students can
Mhm.
tell like when they're like stressed, when they're
Yeah.
having too much work going on, so it's like,
So increased class size would be a big deal.
oh yeah, definitely like. And you could tell like the quality of teaching sometimes too is there, like it's higher when they have less classes and like shorter, like smaller
Sure.
classes.
Sure,
Yeah, I agree for sure, and especially when it comes to teachers and things like that. A lot of our really good quality teachers are teachers that have been around for a while and are
Yeah.
already close to that point of retirement. So if we do have to end up cutting the teachers and then all this other stuff going on with their school system, it might be an incentive for them to also take their retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we lose both our teachers on the lower end and our good teachers, that's just like kind of like a ripple effect of just negative traits.
yeah, that's a good point.
Reference the cost cutting measures and that they can, you know, find that document on the website there. It's too much to put into a. You know, trying to keep it in the snippets on the one page. Putting in the schedule for where they can learn more and ask questions. And we referenced the website, the link, and if you've gone to the Elkhorn School District site, it's set up right now where you have to close the box or go to the referendum page. So I think that'll steer a lot more traffic to that page. And then we do list out what would these budget cuts look like. And I think something that in feedback even from staff. And I know that in going through all of these options here. You don't get in something that we wanted to make sure we did call this. Out, that you don't get the 1.6 million savings by shortening the school year by 5 days in each. It's really from freezing the compensation and not
Yeah,
increasing the compensation, the projected CPI rate that we budgeted for. And in doing so, that's following it's following a similar model to what Burlington did. Is in order to basically, in a sense, they don't call it furlough days, but
Yeah.
the same concept that. Yeah, we recognize we're not increasing your compensation, so we're gonna reduce the number of contracted days. Which we do right now exceed the minutes required significantly at the elementary level. So we have the flexibility there and we can adjust the high school, middle school schedule slightly to get the additional minutes needed. To reduce the school year calendar. So that's the comprehensive list. there that gets to that, again, for the coming year, that total deficit number isn't 5.7. But all of these strategies wouldn't be able to get to that point,
Right.
and still that projected deficit by year 4 did exceed the $4 million. We're
Right.
hoping that, you know, in utilizing some strategies and some attrition and or through funding through the state in the model.
Yep.
And I hate to rely on that, but there are positive headwinds coming out as it relates to special education funding in particular, that could have an impact on our overall budget, significant impact if they do increase special ed reimbursement from 30% to 60%. Again, that doesn't eliminate our projected deficits, but it puts it down to that $4 million dollar amount that the referendum set. Any questions on the one page? Hey, that's good feedback. We'll get that back to Katie. And I want to give a huge thank you to Katie and the team. She's a great asset for the school district and has done a wonderful job putting these documents together. And a lot of districts either contract with an outside firm to handle that or have a full-time graphics arts communications person. We just handle that internally ourselves, and
Right.
come on. All right.
Hey, Jason, this is Chris.
Yeah.
You asked me to remind you to talk to the board about small or short video idea. I just wanted to bring that up to see if there was energy around that.
I appreciate that, Chris, because I was totally, that's in my mind. That's why I asked you to remind me. Chris had brought up and the idea, and you may see other boards that do this. He and John would be willing to do just little snippets or little video vignettes. The board members, we thought it would be powerful to, you know, if the board members wanted to answer a couple questions related to the referendum, that they could do a little video and then those could be pushed out or shared on the website as well. So for those that are willing to do that, I can have Jody just set up and schedule the time, and he and John, they have a lot of, I think they've refined the software and so forth, and they could do that recording.
Sure.
And get those out. And Chris, you were thinking more just individual board members?
Yeah, individual board members in, you know, like certain settings capturing, you know, more than just their role as a board member too, and why this is even more, I don't want to say personal for each board member as a community member, but for example, Julia as a business owner and a parent of 3 alumni, or Ed as the parent of an elementary teacher and employee, or Adam as a parent at Tibbetts, Kyle as a retired teacher, Kevin as a alumni, and Heather as an alumni and parent of students and alumni, and just kind of trying to capture that story, just 2 minutes, give you the question or two on the front end, just so people can hear it kind of from not only your lens as a board member and why you voted yes for it, but also through another view of who you are as a person and a professional and all the other hats you wear.
And we thought, Kathy, you sharing your perspective as a former special education teacher and now, you know, as a member of the community, that would be valuable too.
I'm also a parent of alumni with, you know, an incoming grandchild, you know, to the district.
That's a really diverse group and story to tell.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Across the board, it really is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, very good. I'll have Jody help get that scheduled then around your guys' schedule, and work with Chris and John, kind of pick out the site or the location, whether it's in the school somewhere or location of your choice, so we can get that set up. And then the last piece, this was the mailer, just a reminder, the first mailer we plan on doing, we have our community connection that goes out, which will have a feature related to the referendum. That's a regularly scheduled mailer that goes out. This is mailer, and then we'll do one more mailer in March before the referendum reminding people where to get the information and to vote. This one, we really wanted to get out so that people have the dates and the locations for the different community forums. And some of that same key information that is on the fact sheet. Any other thoughts or discussion related to the referendum update and the working to get the information out?
That's good. If we can get that language changed, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get that to Katie. If nothing else, we can get the digital copies and get that update, which I think that's where people will
Sure.
see more of that. And we're also gonna create what's called just a little pass-along card, because we've received feedback from staff and just community members that that's what we'll kind of like either business card or similar size, that
With a
people can
QR
just have
code.
it on them. Yeah, with like the link, QR code, and a couple of those, key points, just so that, hey, what do I, what I hear a lot is people that want to speak to it and provide information, but kind of, forget what to, what factual information to share and so forth. So I thought that would be good, so people could just have that on their person if they wanted to share that. Okay. Any other, that's what I have for the.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we have the first reading of revised policy 872, public complaints about school personnel. If you want me to take this, I can.
Sure.
This came about as we were reviewing the Neola policies, and one of the policies that came up really was kind of a rewrite of what we had already established, and we as a policy committee had decided that we really wanted to keep our current policy that we have and not use the Neola policy that was similar but different. But there was some language in the one that was proposed by Neola that we thought, you know what, that would be good to add to our current policy. So we took that language there under number 1 from that Neola policy, and we are proposing to add it to our current policy on public complaints. This was one that, because we don't have to adopt every Neola policy that's given to us. This was one that we felt we had done a lot of work on over the years, and we really liked what we had, but we thought this additional language added to number 1 was important, because while we do encourage that level 1 communication, meaning parent has a complaint, they go straight to the that we want them to go straight to the teacher and have a conversation with them first before elevating it to the principal, or often parents will just go straight to the board. I know both Adam and I, and probably several other of you have had people reach out to you at the board level to complain about something, and the response is, you need to go to the teacher first. But there are situations like in this additional language where that may not be appropriate in some situations, and then it lists some of those situations. So we thought it was a good idea to have some more definition there. So that's really what that was all about. If you have any questions, this is just a first reading, so if you have any questions or additional comments about it, feel free to reach out to Adam or myself or Ed. We're all on the policy committee, and just share your thoughts with us, but it'll come back up at the next board meeting for approval.
I like this policy, but I'm kind of wondering where Neola was going. That was different from what we have.
It just, there was there was quite a
Oh,
bit.
it's like a 2-page long.
Yeah, it was
policy.
quite a bit. It was really almost complicated, the way they had it laid out.
And yeah, this has been a process that, I mean, this policy's been in place since 98. We have modified or tweaked it a little bit, but the structure's the same where the districts always maintain. Address the concern with the teacher first, then
Yeah.
then principal, then superintendent, then the board.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this is a good clarification. If it's, obviously, if you're suspecting that teacher of abuse or showing up to work,
That needs to go to the
Inebriated.
principal, yeah,
yeah, where there needs to be an investigation, that's okay to.
right.
yeah,
It's okay
not
to
go
skip that first
person,
level,
yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was just some languages in the Neola policy. We're like, you know what, that's a good clarification to put in ours, so.
And it's not so much that the Neola policy is not good.
Right.
It's just,
It was kind of just complicated.
there's some of our policies that the board spent a lot more time scrutinizing or working on, that I think the policy committee sentiment was, would like to keep our language.
Mhm.
For our policy in this case or that case, not a lot, but some of them.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, review and discussion of, the zeros of the bylaw series, so. These are all the ones that are. Kind of just, well, it's our bylaws, and it establishes who the board is and. All of those, I don't know if you guys had time to go through, through them all.
So,
I went through a lot of them, I didn't go through all of them this time.
Yeah,
so the recommendation from Neil is that we start, they have a certain numerical order that you start with, and to be frank, the zeros they consider the easiest.
yeah.
And then they go to the 900s.
It took us took us three policy meetings just to get through the zeros.
Yeah, so it's really, it is kind of like a homework assignment for the board and from a time utilization piece. And it doesn't have to be in this meeting. It's something that you could email to the policy committee if you had a concern or one that you wanted, hey, I'd like us to review this language or discuss it. So I think this is more, so just to, have that check, that invitation for everybody to go through each of those.
Yeah.
And flag something if you have a concern related to it. If you have no concerns, that's fine. It won't come up for official approval until we've gone through all
Which could be 2 years from now.
it'll be a while.
all the sections. Yeah.
So when I go into each one, this is their language or our language, they just put it in that certain.
So the policy committee has gone through all of the zeros. We've gone through already and
Yeah.
made changes to it.
So it's our.
Okay.
So it's our
language,
language,
okay.
it's taking.
That's what I want.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's our proposed language based off of
Yes.
their policy.
It's just
Yeah.
that they like a certain order, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay,
And the reason why you wait to adopt them all is because they cross-reference.
yeah,
All the different
yeah.
numbers.
Like there's a few policies in the next series that we're going through that reference policies that we haven't even gotten to yet. And so we're like, well, until we get to that policy, we really can't. It's. Yeah, it's a little confusing. Does everybody have like commenting rights?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that when it's sent, when Jody sends it, it's like when you guys, or when it's sent to the whole board. And we've made an edit or we've made a comment, does the board see it?
Yeah, maybe if you go into one and just, you should be able to see on the
I
right.
haven't
Yeah.
seen anything. I mean,
Okay.
if you've changed the color.
It looks like we can, because when I'm opening it up now, I can click on show all comments and it'll show all the comments on the right. That is true.
Is that because you're part of the committee though?
Exactly.
Yeah, that
It could be, so what I'll do is,
So you
I
can-
made a note,
You can,
Jody.
okay, good.
Okay, good, all right.
Yeah, so if you wanna add a comment to something, please feel free to
Yeah.
do that.
That's probably the best way, and then we can
Yep.
go back, because we can set it to give us a notice when there's a comment.
Yep,
Then the policy committee can review that.
yep.
Okay.
But you haven't, if you've done something, you haven't changed the color like the blue or something like
No.
that.
I don't think so.
We haven't, because it's like a fully new policy.
Okay,
Yeah. And there's a lot of policies in these sections that we currently don't have a policy for. So some things you can compare to like our current policy, but many of them are like, well, we don't even have anything like that right now, so.
Yeah, there's some policies we chose not to,
And yes, not to adopt,
said we don't need it.
right, not necessary,
and they're
and
not
I
shown.
don't
They're not shown,
think,
Okay.
yeah,
but just to give you a heads up, we're.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
yep. So yeah, just take some time over the next month or,
2 years.
well, 2 years. but-
Well, we'll have
but
the
that's
900 for
So
these
don't be too long, you don't wanna do these all at once.
Yeah, so
We have insomnia, we start reading.
Exactly.
Okay, correct.
Wait. Or you just put your complete faith and trust in the policy today and then.
No, we want your input, so. All right, we're gonna move on to personnel. This one's a really easy one tonight.
Yes. All right, we have the appointment of Jamie McCann as a high school softball assistant coach. I believe this is our shortest one that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever
Oh,
seen it with
almost-
just
yeah,
one.
We almost had 0.
I'll move to approve the personal recommendation sheet for February 10th, 2025, including new employment contracts, conditioned upon passing the background check and district mandated drug screening as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the personal recommendation sheet for February 10th, 2025. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Andre.
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart.
Yes.
Eric Gordon.
Yes,
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Costock.
Yes.
Mrs. Reckles.
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow.
Yes,
Ms. Corpus, sorry to. get you.
Yes.
Mr. Jaime Sarabia.
Yes.
Okay. Looks like you do have some school
do.
gifts to present.
We've got 3 gifts this evening. David and Heather Kucharski have donated $100 to purchase books at Westside Elementary School. Sugar Creek Lutheran Church Endowment Committee has donated $1,650 to the Elkhorn Area School District Empowerment Fund to assist students in need, and $1,000 to the Parent Connections Program for the summer programming. If you're not aware, the Empowerment Fund is a fund that the school social workers and counselors have to help students and their families in crisis for
Okay,
assistance that they can't get at other agencies.
sure.
Joanne, thank you to Sugar Creek Lutheran
Yes.
Church for that. Joanne Schaefer has donated a set of 2-way radios to the high school track team valued at $130.
A set of 10 two-way
10,
radios.
sorry, yes. That's gotta be a set of. Can you get 10 for $130?
I was just gonna say, probably $130 for each set is my guess.
are they new?
But thank you, Joanne.
Yeah,
thank you.
either way.
Thanks, Joanne.
She's amazing. She's constantly donating things. So just need a motion to accept.
I move to accept the generous gift, school gifts as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the generous school gifts as presented. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? All right. Parking lot use requests.
This time of the year, we get the requests in for the upcoming summer season for different organizations that would like to utilize the parking lots to sell parking. It looks like we have some opening,
Just a couple.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
but for the most part, it's pretty well booked.
yeah, 4, yeah, just a couple. Looks like.
I know, like the Walworth County Fair, I think Rotary did that last year, so. Some of these I'm sure will still get filled up.
Yeah, there's only about 5 that haven't been filled, so. John is really the one who
He coordinates.
coordinates it, yeah.
Do we collect a fee for this? and they keep all of the other funds that they get from parking the cars? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. We typically, most of these organizations are our internal groups, so we don't collect fees from them. You'll see like the Kiwanis Club and I would say some legacy groups that they donate back and or provide a scholarship. But there was never an original fee schedule set up when they originally started utilizing it. But I believe, and I don't want to offend anybody, but the Kiwanis Club, I believe, do you know, Bill, is it $1,000 they give plus a $2,000 scholarship or something like
Yes,
that?
that sounds about right, yes.
Well, and 3 years ago, they donated $10,000 to the outdoor classroom that we helped build
Yes.
at the middle school,
Right.
so.
So no, we don't have an official fee structure for it, but aside from Kiwanis. And then Rotary kind of fills in on those gaps, but they do quite a bit of donations back to the school district, especially the music programs and other areas over the years.
That's great. I was just curious, that's all.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a good question. I know that like the county, the fairgrounds had approached the Kiwanis Club about using that parking lot, and they offered to pay them if they would shift or move because they wanted more handicap access parking. And Kiwanis wasn't interested in shifting, or I think they were concerned with the workforce, because I think what they said is, hey, if you let us use the parking there or put in for it with the school, and then you guys help over on the grass parking, we'll make sure that you earn as much. And so that was, I think the Kiwanis said, no, thank you on that, but nothing's come to the board or the fairgrounds haven't been submitting anything. They kind of, yeah, I would say it's a legacy tradition that's been, I don't know how many years they've been doing the parking there. Probably since before your time, right?
It is before my time.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the parking lot use request as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the parking lot use request as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
And I would just add, for some of those groups, they got in at the right time and it's extremely lucrative, and that's, you know, they're fundraising for the year and they're locked in and they have healthy budgets as a result. And, yeah, so.
Not
good for
saying
them.
anything about Tibbetts, but boy, it's so much easier to do that than to go around selling candy bars.
Yes.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, for example, the Booster Club, which is a legacy traditional one as well.
Yeah.
I know Ed, you spearheaded that for many years.
Yeah.
What do they bring? About 25 to 30,000 a year, right? From the
Quite that
parking?
much, but it's at
I
least
think it,
15.
yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
okay.
say around 18 is what I remember, yeah.
All right.
And as well right here too.
Yeah. Yeah, band.
You sat in that parking lot.
Yep, I sure have.
All right.
Okay, so, we're need to adjourn to, a closed session, to evaluate superintendent, so just need a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, to evaluate the job performance of the district administrator. The school board will not reconvene in open session.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn to a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, to evaluate the job performance of the district administrator. The school board will not reconvene in open session. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Andre?
Yes.
Mr. Gayheart?
Yes.
Eric Gordon?
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs. Reckles?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow?
Yes.
Ms. Corpus?
Yes for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Jaime Saravia? Yeah, all right.
Yeah. You can approve us going to closed session, you just
Just can't
can't stay.
Yeah,
That's not very nice.
Sorry.
Sheesh.
okay, you'll send them separately.
Yeah.
Jason sent me a separate invite, so I'll rejoin in a moment.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we'll
Thank
take
you,
like
thank you,
a.
everybody online. Have a good night.